We'll start with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have a decision to make, it appears. Yannick Ngakoue, he doesn't want to play with the Jags anymore. And he tweeted Monday morning that he has no interest in a long-term deal in Jacksonville. He wrote that the Jaguars are aware of this. Duval, I love you and gave you guys everything I got. I'm thankful for the journey and look forward to continuing my career elsewhere. Now, that doesn't mean he's gone, though, Chris Wesseling, because the team, according to Rap Sheet, plans to use the franchise tag on Ngakoue. So he might not want to be around, but it doesn't mean the Jaguars have to trade him. Or do they? They just went through this with a star defender with Jalen Ramsey. Do they hold the cards or do they not hold the cards?
Anytime you can wield the franchise tag, you hold the cards. But this is a franchise with cap issues. This may be one of the 3 or 4 worst. They're in maybe worse shape than all but 3 or 4 franchises in the NFL, maybe even worse than that. They don't have that much talent on their roster, and yet they're up against the cap, even though they have a quarterback making peanuts. How does that happen?
Well, because they have another quarterback not making peanuts who, isn't going to play for them probably much this year, Nick Foles. Who knows? Maybe they trade him away for nothing. But to your point, Wes, how do you draft Ngakoue and Jalen Ramsey? And who am I forgetting about that was a good Jaguars draft pick that they've lost over the last couple of years? I mean, they've won about at the lowest rate of any team in the NFL, except for 1 year for 7 years. And they haven't developed their homegrown players. And it's very rare you see like such an obvious response from sources that Ngakoue tweeted this out this morning, and literally 3 minutes later, Adam Schefter had a team source from the Jaguars saying they were going to trade him. That was the timeline. It was like, oh, that's okay. He's saying that, but every team out there know that we're going to use this tag because we want to at least trade him.
They also lost Telvin Smith to a somewhat surprising retirement, and their core is gone. Their defense, remember, it seemed like every preview show we were tracking this abominable run defense down the stretch that was giving up like 219 yards a game. And, they got rid of some of the people making the decisions, and they kept Doug Marrone. And I have to wonder when
Dave Caldwell.
When you hear Ngakoue say, I just don't want to be part of this organization, there's a lot of vestiges of old issues. And Mike Garafolo talked about, Ngakoue and the Jaguars, the contract talks, if they've ever even been around, have been contentious. So, I don't know what you do unless you're going to keep him for 1 year. You sign and trade him if you can. But if you're him, you're stuck playing in a contract year again where you want to go. You're making good money. What is it, 19.5? But any sort of injury late season messes up your future.
Allen Robinson was the guy I was trying to think of, who's a true number 1 receiver who they developed. They can open up some more money by cutting A.J. Boye, which might happen. But they've had a lot of swing and misses like Andrew Norwell. And I don't think he'll be that hard to trade. He'll be expensive to get. But if you can trade Frank Clark on the tag, which is the case what happened last year, right? Then if you can trade D Ford, and both of those guys, whether they were on the tag or not, Ford's timing was different, cost a pick and a big contract. Ngakoue, to me, seems almost exactly in their tier of player, and someone's going to give up, I think, a second or third round pick, whatever it's going to be, and a big contract or more than that.
I think he could get a first, maybe. Considering his age, he's not yet 25 years old.
It's just tricky because you got to give $60 million guaranteed and 20 plus a year too. So it's just like really expensive. But some team, there's too much cap space. I'm going to say it a million times. Like you got to spend the cap space. Use it.
I think the one thing that Gregg has said about the Jaguars that is the seed of so many of these issues is when they took Leonard Fournette, a running back, over their choice of quarterback X, Y, or Z who could have changed the organization.
Third-round pick Ngakoue. They've had some swings and misses, but he was not one of them. He's actually at 37.5 sacks in 4 seasons with the Jaguars. He's actually closing in on the team sack record all time.
Wow.
And you know what? He ain't going to be around much longer, sounds like. In other news, speaking of guys and the franchise tag and what's their future, I don't know. A.J. Green and the Cincinnati Bengals seem to be at an impasse. The Bengals currently plan to use the franchise tag on the wide receiver. Sources tell ESPN's Dan Graziano and Jeremy Fowler. The Bengals want Green in Cincinnati in 2020. And the tag, again, is a good scratch. The tag is estimated to be worth around $18.5 million.
Scratch, though.
Yeah, there's got to be a middle ground.
You're in a
somewhere.
weird purgatory. Too young for scratch, too old for bag.
I'm a man without a country. $18.5 million would be his franchise number. The sides have until July 15th to reach a long-term deal. You could start tagging dudes on Thursday. So this is all happening right now. Anyway, Green turns 32 in July. He hasn't played much in 2 years, Greg. Makes sense as a short-term guy for Cincinnati with a new quarterback coming in. But, again, will he use his leverage to try to make a deal to get out of there?
It sounds like he won't because he did say publicly he would be fine with the franchise tag earlier.
I mean, how much leverage does he have at 32 coming off a completely missed
Yeah,
season?
I think that's part of it too. And he's never been someone who's complained about being on the Bengals or said that he's been treated poorly or says that ownership is a problem. He's always said he's liked his experience there, to be fair. And that offense, I feel like we've overhyped some Bengals offenses over the year.
No.
But Joe Burrow, Mixon, Green, Boyd, Ross.
Well, if Joe Burrow can play. Isn't that everything just hinges on that?
Yeah, but I'm in on wanting to watch them week one, and it could be fun.
Now, an offensive line that was responsible for more sacks than any line in the league.
That's a problem.
They're getting a little healthier along the line too. I'm assuming the coaching staff is talented. I didn't see a hint of that last year.
And they
Sorry, I mean,
no, you're
Why
right.
are you assuming it then?
No, why?
Well, because
why
it's
are
like
you
I want to
assuming
give them the benefit of the doubt because it seemed like it's the Bengals, and you're not getting a lot of support hitting the ground as a first-year staff to begin with. You lost A.J. Green all year. You got stuck in an Andy Dalton scenario where you benched him for someone even more milquetoast. So it's like they didn't.
Well, it's a young coaching staff of guys with not a pedigree of winning, so it's hard to give them the benefit of the doubt.
They showed a little something very late, but man, they were
just not writing them off
they
yet.
were
But
so
what
banged up.
am I? You want to see them week one? Go ahead. I will allow you to do that, and you can have.
Might be
nice
Bengals Browns. Browns aren't getting that nice week one on CBS treatment.
I don't need last year's
They might have
week one to replay
Don
in my
Cricky
life,
with
so.
the CBS 5th team.
Beasley Reese.
Give me Cricky.
Speaking of Andy Dalton, this is a crazy year. We could work here another 10 years. I don't know if the offseason will ever feature this many name brand quarterbacks just completely kind of either twisting in the wind or there being some type of doubt about their future with their current team. It's pretty wild. And Dalton is one of those names out there. He's obviously not long for Cincinnati. Where will he go? Well, according to Rap Sheet, 3 potential suitors for the longtime starting QB have emerged, including the Chicago Bears, the Indianapolis Colts, and the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots. Of course, the Bears, on that topic, they put their faith behind Mitch Trubisky at the end of the season. But as Combine Week rolled on, you started to hear the expected whispers that, we're not cutting Mitch Trubisky, but we'll be damned if he's going to be the guy that we live and die with in 2020. By the way, I asked directly Matt Nagy this last week. I said, are you going to go the Tannehill route?
What was his response?
I don't think he answered me, as I recall. I didn't
Probably
get an
smart.
answer. Didn't get an answer.
We're only a couple
I was
years.
the enemy.
We're only a couple years away from Sheck's annual. Why can't we find out of 7 billion people on Earth 32 to play quarterback? And now, for the first time since I remember following football, we've got more quarterbacks than chairs in the game of musical chairs. There are too many starting quarterbacks in the NFL now.
I mean, if this list of teams that Ian threw out there, and it's early, I don't think Dalton is any of these teams' first choice. If he was in Chicago, he'd obviously be the backup. If it was with the Colts or the Patriots, maybe he's kind of a fallback plan depending on what else happens. But it's still great news for Andy Dalton. I mean, these are great. These are good. These are upgrades from the Bengals. His chances of starting, meaningful December games or in the playoffs, it has gone up because I think he's going to have a chance to be either a backup or on a team that's competitive. The Patriots thing is weird. That's been thrown out there by a number of people. I don't know if this is wishful thinking from Dalton. I don't think it's coming from the Patriots side at this point. But I don't know. There's something counterintuitive about me that I would like a little like Andy Dalton starting a playoff game.
I could kind of
So
see Dalton
ridiculous.
fitting with the Patriots. I
We're
really
mad.
could. I could just see. No, I'm not saying like it's a 4-year relationship, but that that's a possibility. Did you say that you felt like he would be a backup in Chicago?
To start the year, yes, because they keep saying
you
week
think we're
one.
Gonna get through training camp where that would be the case?
Yeah, I
don't know
do.
about that.
If he was with Chicago, I think they would give Trubisky they would give him like 3 weeks to mess it up at the beginning of the season.
My head is filled with visions of like that critical week 3 preseason game where Dalton goes 10 for 12, 198 with a touchdown, and Mitchell Trubisky throws 2 ugly interceptions and fumbles the ball. I don't know if we need to wait till mid-September to make the switch there.
Yeah, I don't know how you feel strongly either way. If they go into camp and Trubisky plays like he has the last 2 years, I think you'd have to go into the season with Dalton as your quarterback.
I would be excited to see. It would be like Andy Dalton carrying the hopes of Cincinnati on his back. It's like if they can't win a playoff game, at least Andy Dalton, at least someone from those Marvin Lewis teams could do it.
Great job,
You
guys.
know?
Chopping it up just now for 97 seconds because it allowed me to go through the whole league and figure out every quarterback
That's what we do.
that either has some uncertainty or doesn't have a job right now. There's only one division by my quick scanning that is unaffected by this whole situation right now. It's the NFC West. Garoppolo, Russell Wilson, Jared Goff, and Kyler Murray.
And Pro Football
No
Talk
questions there.
keeps throwing out headlines like the Jimmy G Tom Brady buzz will not die
stop
down.
it.
So they at least
You want me to put them on the list?
no.
All right, I won't.
Hit those clicks.
All right, here's the list. Tom Brady, Andy Dalton, Ryan Tannehill, Jake Brisket, Nick Foles, Joe Flacco, Derek Carr, Phillip Rivers, Dwayne Haskins, Mitch Trubisky, Matthew Stafford, Teddy Bridgewater, Jameis Winston, Cam Newton. All guys with some level of doubt / indecision. I mean, we don't know where they could be. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
And we've got this extra week here. This is what's happening this week. We got 3 shows. If there's no new CBA and who knows what we're going to talk. It keeps being the same topics over and over because the NFL added a week here this offseason. Very quietly, Dan.
I know you've been on top of this.
You've
It's a
been
good job
talking
by you.
about pushing that you wanted to keep pushing the offseason out, like get in the way of other sports.
I didn't say I was.
But like that's
Yeah.
this is like a purgatory week here that we normally didn't have. We still have 2 weeks left till free agency. Way back, free agency would happen right after the combine. Then they added 1 week, and now it's 2 full weeks of just kind of build up. And especially because there's no CBA, I think teams are just kind of waiting to see what happens with that.
From another angle, could have
Nothing's
done, with a lower level of news to discuss and kind of, scurrying around to figure out what to do with the extra fill-in time. Could have done 2 shows. Could have been at the sea today or the ocean.
Could have been. Could have
On a
been.
boat.
And I'll throw this out here again. We've talked about it before. Why not have the draft next week and then free agency in the last week of April?
And then just
Doesn't that just make more sense?
Or just do free agency the week after.
Well, that goes
We
against
just-
Bill. They want to own the whole calendar. If anything, I think they'd push the draft back further. It is interesting. NBA fans always want their free agency and draft flipped because they go the way that you're suggesting, where the draft is before free agency, whereas NFL fans often want it flipped the other way.
Tony Romo. That's the big domino. Forget about all that other stuff. He is staying at CBS, and he is making some loot. Yes, CBS and Tony Romo have agreed to a multi-year contract worth approximately, wait for it, $17 million per season. Rap Sheet reported. A bunch of other people had it, including the New York Post, which was first to report the news. The deal, okay, a couple things. First of all, it triples his previous salary. It is more money than I think he ever made any time as a player. I think he averaged $9 million a year in his time with the Cowboys. Now he's making 17. The thing that you could, in terms of a comparison point, similar situation with John Madden back in '93 when he signed with Fox and he was making more than any player in the league. That's not Romo here, but $17 million is astronomical, and it will have fallout on that entire industry. You'd imagine. Troy Aikman's probably going to be looking for some money now. What's Troy Aikman making right now? $7 million a year, $6 million a year. Is Tony Romo
I don't think it's
$11 million better than Troy Aikman? Wes?
He's in a category by himself.
You're worth what the market's willing to pay you. That's what you're
Well,
worth.
that's for sure. And I've read a lot about this just because the whole thing has been interesting to me. And one of the things that worked out for him beautifully timing wise was first of all, the brevity of the previous contract, and then the fact that they are, they have the rights negotiations coming up for the networks to decide who's going to cover NFL games. And CBS is a broadcast network, as anybody that's following media knows, and just, if you're alive, the broadcast is no longer king. Broadcast channels, they don't have the carry and the wealth they used to have compared to some of these cable and Netflix and Disney and all that stuff. And what CBS does here is they make an investment saying, listen, we might not be the powerhouse we used to be in terms of as a network, but we have Tony Romo. So the deal goes through 3 years at the minimum, and then the rights deal comes. And if they do re-up and CBS keeps football, it ends up lasting, I believe, 10 years in total, at which point, I don't know, 17 times 10, man, 170 million? 170 million?
I mean, I don't know if it's a bargain, but it's fine. It's not. It's more
not our
than
money.
worth it. Well, that's true too. But like, if you found out that Tom Selleck was making $5-6 million a year on Blue Bloods on CBS, people would be like, oh yeah, that makes sense for Selleck. People love Blue Bloods.
Yeah, this.
And it's like it's the number one
Selleck.
show on TV by far. Blue Bloods is buried. It's like if you
Wait,
wouldn't,
what?
you wouldn't come.
Blue Bloods does well. I think they're like in season 7.
That's what I'm saying.
They're doing a
though.
nice job
but
over there.
My point is,
Yes, I know.
CBS, football
Yeah.
dwarfs it. It's the number one show, so you pay
They
your
need
number
football.
one actor.
If there's
big-time
even
money.
like a 0.5% scenario where CBS doesn't get football though, and then we have lost Tony Romo to essentially like 2 or 3 months of golf a year, that would be problematic.
Friends actors made $1 million an episode. You're telling me Romo's not worth $1 million a game?
Yeah, I'm not arguing with
Sounds
you.
about right.
Michael
Oh, no.
Thomas is arguing with it.
And what did Michael Thomas say?
Michael Thomas basically said nobody who's calling the games should make more than anybody who's playing the games, to which I would say, give me a break. You're chasing a bag of wind around the park. Why can't a guy talking about you chasing a bag of wind around the park make as much money as you? Whatever the market will bear is what happens.
Mike, what are we doing?
None of you are brain surgeons. The
Well,
world
Mike
can go
Thomas.
on without you.
The person announcing the game has the ability to take a very dull, boring game and add some life and interest to it. That's not
Well,
something.
plus,
that Michael
there's only
Thomas
one
enjoys.
Romo. There's another 50 players probably that are making between what Romo makes and whatever the number 2 guy makes. So it's not like
Right.
there's a lot
And,
of Romo.
Mikey Thomas, come back to us. Are you paying attention to the most lucrative route for a post-playing career?
Right.
It's going into the booth or
Right.
going to a studio and being an analyst. Tony Romo just reset the entire market. You should be celebrating the man.
Yeah.
When he's 40, Michael Thomas won't feel this way.
Greg Olson.
He's 34.
Mark Ingram was on our coverage
Comes
all
quicker
weekend.
than you realize.
I mean, it's like they're planning their post careers. There was this one report from Andrew Marchand at the New York Post that before signing Romo to the full deal, CBS offered Peyton Manning Romo's job. Have you seen this?
CBS did that preemptively?
That they were concerned that they weren't going to get it or have to pay too much because of the stuff you're talking about money-wise. That I'm not. This
Makes
is coming
sense.
from New York Post. So
well,
we'll
they
see,
thought he
but
might leave for ESPN.
If he left, they needed to have somebody because the number 2 guy, and we love him, the bird and the beard, but Dan Fouts, he's not bringing what Romo brings. So they would have had to find someone to make a splash to again make them enticing come re-up time.
I'll
That
also
makes sense.
you're
ESPN
on-
people have to be happy about this.
Yeah, if you're on Monday Night Football too, and you're part of that production, it is disquieting, and not that this would become as a huge shock. There were some issues with that production, we know, but that your own company is just went all out to try to get someone other than you to headline your show. It's just not a great feeling in any job,
Love you, bro.
any industry, any relationship. I can't
Wait.
imagine why you'd want that.
Did you say you think ESPN is happy about this?
No, I'm saying some people that work at
Oh,
ESPN
that currently in
that
the-
maybe
yes.
are thinking they would have
Incumbents,
a
if you will.
shot, yeah, shot at
To have the job.
at that job. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Mark's saying, it's a tough situation though, tough sitch, because now they know you actively were trying to replace them. Like at what point?
Well, at least
But they'd have to know that anyone would be going after Tony Romo.
this isn't a
like
Bruce
this.
Arians situation where they're like openly, talking trash about Jameis Winston or talking about other people.
Finally, in the news, Tom Brady and his boy, Julian Edelman, were with Jimmy Fallon, the talk show host, at a Syracuse, North Carolina basketball game over the weekend. And we had a viral clip. Mark, why don't you set this up? Because I think Ricky has some sound as well Take us through the process.
Well, it's sideline, courtside seats, and you've got Julian Edelman, who looked to me to be roughly suddenly 17 years older than the last time I saw him, with to his left Jimmy Fallon and to his right, much closer to the camera, Tom Brady. And you'll hear Edelman basically when they kind of cut to these guys saying, he's staying, something along those lines.
He's coming back.
And you really, you need to go seek this out online, too, because the look and the awkward set-in looks on Tom Brady's face over the next, 10, 12 seconds is
a bit of a death glare.
It is, and there was a lot of, even in some articles that sat out there for 24 hours, people trying to figure out what he actually said. And NFL Network came to the conclusion that what Tom Brady said at the end of all this, which initially was meant to be negative, like he's not or whatever, he said he's got it, like Edelman's got the news, but not in a way that would make you think, if you're a Patriots fan, Greg, you watched it, that would make you feel comfortable.
We have audio of this?
Yeah, we should listen to it, but I think it's the visual you have to look at, too.
He's coming back. He's coming back. What'd you tell Boeheim? He's got it.
So Edelman, he's coming back. Some random guy to Brady goes, what did you tell Boeheim, who's the Syracuse coach? Is he still there?
Yes, he is. Been there for
Brady
20
goes,
years.
Ever.
Yeah.
Brady goes, he's got it sounded like, but some people said he said he's not, as in he's not coming
back. He did
back.
say he's got it. They isolate, the NFL Network guys did a good job boosting up his audio, isolating it.
It's almost like a CIA operation.
I love it.
They led the show with this, and it was great because the facial expression is very much. I interpreted it more as just what I'm on TV. I'm aware of it. I am trying to have no reaction, but there's no way to have no reaction.
He struggled though,
and it's just like a grin that with his teeth bared. And Edelman's reaction was funnier because it was definitely the. Tom Brady is the alpha in their relationship reaction and did I go too far pushing the guy who's made my career? And a little sheepish, he crosses his arms just.
Well, then
I might have got a little.
No
too
Lamborghini
right.
for Christmas.
And
this
Jimmy
year,
Fallon typically knows what he's going to say left and right. He just had no idea what to do at the moment either. So it's a nice bushel of awkwardness.
All right.
I like this intrigue. I maybe that's rare among Patriots fans.
You're legitimately playing with house money. Even if this goes terribly sideways, it's all fun for you.
And I would rather Tom Brady, and maybe we can talk about this with Tom Curran, who's coming in, but I'd rather have Tom Brady struggle in another uniform than struggle with the Patriots.
All right.
I just don't want to see that.
That is a good way to get into it now. Let's get him on the phone, Mr. Tom Curran. Tom, are you there?
I'm right here. Yes, I am.
There he is, Tom Curran. Tom, Dan Hanzus here. Whenever we talk about Tom Brady or the Patriots in general, Gregg's our right-hand man when it comes to New England stuff, and he will cite your name more than anyone else as a quote-unquote person he trusts to know the situation. And in these times, we need you, Tom Curran, to give us thoughts on the Tom Brady situation. We just finished breaking it down, Zapruder film style, the Syracuse game. Where are we at right now? Give us a little insight. Please, help us.
Well, let's start right there because we now have enhanced audio.
Yes, we just listened.
Are you guys good with the enhanced audio?
Yeah, we just listened. It was beautiful.
Okay, so it's just a question about Boeheim, and he said he's got it or whatever.
Right.
So we're good on that.
All right, we'll move on from that.
Oh, so you're saying he was definitely responding to the Boeheim question.
100%.
And the death stare he gave to Julian, we're not going to read into that.
The death stare he gave to Julian was the kind of death stare you give to your little brother when you say, you know what, all right, I'll go to the game with you. It'll be good for your brand. Let's go have some fun.
Bingo.
And then you're playing along, and the camera comes over, and the little brother can't help himself.
Okay.
He does something that makes him say, I knew that you would do something that I regretted, and you just did. And that's not what I was looking for. So
great.
That's why I thought Brady said, let's not, as in let's not be a dipshit here.
I got that. And by the way, so far, and Tom, you and I haven't really had a chance to really speak at length together. We're not buddies yet. But you've already cleared up a major situation. So Gregg's scouting of you is spot on through about 90 seconds.
Oh, good.
I mean, Tom and I go way back. We worked at multiple places together. And anyone that's followed the Tom Brady's career, they know Tom Curran has been inextricably linked to him ever since Tom Curran. It was a strategic move. He wouldn't say this, but early on in the Bledsoe-Brady time together. He had called Drew Bledsoe a hood ornament. In print, in the Boston Herald, he would call him Robert Kraft's hood ornament, a thing he put on his car to distract all the Patriots fans, his contract, from everything going on. And Tom planted his flag in a sixth-round pick out of Michigan before anyone else did. And these players, they remember these things.
I mean, I'm telling you, if you watched that training camp in 2001, what you would have seen, if you were watching closely, would have been inescapable to you, too. The skinny kid looked way better than the statue from Washington State.
Wow. You've
And
also – go ahead.
It was an intervention that Bo Lewis performed that Bill Belichick will, to this day, say, thank God, because I was about a week from benching him anyway.
Ooh.
Like, and the great thing about covering this team, and this is where this coverage is different, is there are nuances to covering this team. It's hard to get in with individual people. It's hard to build the trust, and it's hard to cover this team from afar. There are many folks around people who get very exercised when they get on the phone and start talking to folks. And I try and divide and take out a little bit of the stuff that I think is emotional. That people around Tom or around the team or around ownership might say.
Like right now, what do you think is emotional that's maybe getting out there? Because this last week, we reached, and I'm sure it'll get even crazier, but we kind of reached peak Brady speculation, especially on ESPN with our old friend, Jeff Darlington, saying he'd be shocked if Brady was back there.
And I get along great with Jeff, and Jeff is very well plugged in, I believe, with everything Brady right now. I just have seen this movie too many times here in New England where you think something is absolutely, positively, definitely going to happen, and you get to a point where you walk a plank and it's hard to come back. I wouldn't be stunned if Tom Brady came back. Nick Caserio's back. Josh McDaniels came back. Deion Branch came back. Jamie Collins came back. There is a pitch, and I wrote this today, that will be made to Tom Brady, and it's not going to necessarily revolve around, we're going to get you this player and this player and this player and this player, and we're going to pay you this much money, and we're going to commit to you for this long. The pitch is really going to consist of, in my estimation, from what I understand, what are you doing? Where is it going to be better? Where are they going to understand what it's like with 2 minutes left, we're down 4, and we need to manage it? Do these guys know the situational things? Do they know what you expect? Do they even have the same verbiage in their offense? Are you going to coach the coaches to coach the players? Because those are all the things, Tom, that you're going to encounter out there. It's going to be very frustrating for you at 43.
But can they have a conversation with him like that? I mean, is that how you would play that conversation? I mean, I feel like
I don't think that'd be the first thing I'd say when he's
right. But you get there.
Yeah, I don't think that's the first thing I say. What are you thinking about? I think it'd say, look, there were some mistakes we made, as you know, Tom. There's things that didn't work out. There's injuries that arose. That's all in the past.
I mean, I think it makes
sense. How can we move forward?
I think it makes sense to pitch the competitive advantage of staying in an environment that knows him so well and vice versa versus, shifting gears to a lesser team that you find out half these NFL teams are running away that would be completely unacceptable to Tom Brady. But do you think that Belichick and Robert Kraft are on the same page when it comes to the future of Tom Brady, the desire to even have that conversation and do whatever it takes to keep him from getting out of the building?
Yes, and I reported that, in the story that I wrote today, that Bill Belichick and the Patriots and the coaching staff is very committed to trying to convince Tom Brady to stay in 2020. Do they make a 2-year commitment? I mean, had they done the Drew Brees contract last year, we wouldn't be here now. 2 years, $50 million, bam, done. We wouldn't be sitting here. They resisted the 2 years. They said we want to go year to year. That's not what Brady wanted. That's why he asked for and was given the opportunity to not be franchised, because Robert Kraft didn't want Brady to come back against his will. He didn't want him to feel tethered. He didn't think that was productive. So that's why we are where we are. But Robert Kraft also understands that he is running a risk. But he does want to embolden Belichick to do what he's always done, which is run the football side of things. The notion that Robert Kraft intervened on Jimmy Garoppolo isn't accurate. It grew legs, it grew wings, it grew tentacles, and it's run wild. It didn't happen. And I've been told that directly by Kraft, that it's a bleeping lie. I didn't do that. And I believe him.
I see so much of what you're saying about the benefits of staying in New England, and I really don't want to see him go somewhere else and fail because the coaching infrastructure isn't there and the players aren't there. But what about the idea there are very few athletes in history, I'm thinking like Muhammad Ali and Michael Jordan, on the level of Tom Brady's career where there are multiple peaks once you think he's done. He just keeps peaking and peaking and peaking. There are only a handful of guys in the history of sports like that. What about the idea of Tom Brady creating a new challenge for himself because there's no challenge left?
100% that exists. But the difference with those guys is they were either in individual sports or team sports in which it was much smaller. For Tom to orchestrate that in a different place, to impart a culture on a 53 or 60-man roster when you get through all the people who come in and out, and on a coaching staff, is much more difficult to do. That's why, to me, Tennessee makes the most sense because there's a culture in place and he's pre-sold in terms of what Mike Vrabel will say. Just listen to him and just watch what he does, and this is what we want. So I think that's an advantage, but I think it's much harder for him to do that, but I do think that he's enthused by that. In 2019 and for a large part of 2018, he'd go to the line and say, what am I going to do on this play? I don't know if he's going to be in the right spot. I don't know if he's going to be in the right spot. I have no tight end as far as last year. I don't know what's going to happen over there at left tackle. I'm probably going to end up having to throw this ball away. And he did that, a league leading by a large amount, 45 times. He doesn't want to go through that again this year.
I was amazed at a part of the story, at the Syracuse game that we didn't even mention, which is that he was FaceTiming with Vrabel. Vrabel in Indianapolis certainly did not hesitate to talk about Brady, to talk about his friendship, to talk about how many challenges he thought Brady presented as a playoff opponent. Like if he's trying to use that as a negotiating thing with Ryan Tannehill, I mean, to me, it's working. And they're like FaceTiming. These are 40-something-year-old men. First of all, does anyone FaceTime with other men? Like, I don't know.
All
Like,
the
with
time.
other
All
people,
the time.
with like
all
friends.
the time.
I'd rather not discuss my private life.
I'm just saying, who FaceTimes except for like with their kids or their wife? I didn't know that's a thing. The fact that he's FaceTiming with Vrabel on a random February day with Julian Edelman,
Who called who?
that seems significant. I don't know.
They live a different life than we do, fellas. They live a different life.
Right.
But I do think one thing that you mentioned there in terms of the tampering and the notion that Mike Vrabel is doing, a lot of eyebrows went up. My understanding is the Patriots are, quote, in a story I wrote recently, not going to be, quote, super vigilant about the tampering for two reasons. One, they don't feel their competition with other teams is financially based. They're selling a situation, not a paycheck. Even though Tom Brady doesn't want to get nickel and dimed again because he feels he has been, they're more about what's the situation that you have here as opposed to other places. Secondarily, when they sit down with him to eventually talk about money, they don't want him to be of a mind that I don't know what's out there yet. I have no idea what's going to go on. I need to go to free agency to find these things out. So there is an advantage to that. So while I think that it does raise eyebrows, I've been told the Patriots are not going to be chasing tampering charges all over the planet.
All right, percent chance.
By the way, I find that our employer is often selling a situation versus a paycheck as well, so I can understand.
Very often. Very often. Port in the storm. Percent chance that Tom is wearing, not Tom Curran, Tom Brady is wearing a different uniform week one.
Oh, you're going to love this answer. 50.
All right.
Well, still, I mean, and I guess my last question, Tom, for you is, since you have had, a level-headed viewpoint on this, I think we all think, and are you at all surprised where it is right now compared to where you thought it would have been, let's say, in October when there started to be some percolation about his struggles and his contract was up? Are you surprised that where we're here right now where it feels 50-50 and you're getting these reports out there, or is this something you kind of saw coming? It was always going to be a little messy this time of year with the contract coming up.
No, I knew it was going to look exactly like this, probably actually worse, because in August and late July, before they were able to get the contract done, Brady expected a longer commitment. When he didn't get it, he really, and the folks around him were like, okay, you know what? Fun's fun, but now we have no players around him. He's going to go out there. Things aren't going to look good. And then when the Antonio Brown situation came and went. I don't think Brady was psyched about it. I really don't think Bill Belichick was psyched about the way that went down either. That became further agitation for Brady, and the season bore it out. He ended up taking the brunt of the blame for it. Well, he slipped, and he is 42, And so many of those games, he did show less pocket poise and patience than in past years, but the arm strength's there. The pocket mobility is still there. I don't think I've seen a physical dip from him. So most people, if you asked 10 people, I think that 9 would say, yeah, he's slipping. I think that as that season wore on, he wasn't that psyched about that he had to bear the brunt of it, and he had to stand there, and you could see that in his face. So I kind of felt that it was going to trend this way the whole time. What fascinates me is when push comes to shove over the next 10 days, 15 days, whether the Patriots will be able to exert upon him and convince him that, look, this is the best place for you. It always has been. It always will be. We want you here.
You really think his pocket mobility hasn't slipped at all?
Pocket mobility? No. He is.
That's shocking to me.
His ability to elude the rush, duck his shoulders, move around people?
Yeah. Like, I
mean,
think
it
it's like slipped
jailbreak.
significantly.
You had Ted Karras in front of him instead of David Andrews. You had Marshall Newhouse for a chunk of the season.
Rather have Marshall Mathers.
Instead of Trent Brown. Shaq Mason didn't have as good a season. It was a circus.
Right. I grant all of that.
Save it for the pub, guys.
I think Brady could be getting motivation from his old pal Tom Curran, because a lot of people in Tom Curran's spot. He's got his radio show. He's got his TV show weekly. It's like they give up the writing part of it. We've seen it with our careers. Our writing has dropped off. But Curran's out there. He's still spinning gems. I'm just telling you. If you want to read about Patriots, it's
Tom,
concise. It's great.
You get a Christmas card from Tom Brady?
No.
Okay, just check.
No.
You could read Tom's latest column, the one that he's referenced on this show today, at NBCSportsBoston.com/Patriots. Patriots. And you could also follow him on Twitter at Tom E. Curran, Curran. I just did. I don't know. I fell through the cracks. I didn't have a follow. Now I bang a follow. Now, Tom, that's up to you if you want to follow back the old Zeuser. That's your call, totally. But
this is the real off-season drama we're tracking.
The old Zeuser is Dan Hanzus.
Do you want to start FaceTiming on the regular?
Absolutely. Tom, thanks for joining us and bringing some clarity to a unclear situation.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Tom.